Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this panel, to the Futurelab Day. Welcome to Planet B. A different life is possible, but how? Special about this format is that we will invite every one of you from the audience to join this discussion. It is not only a keynote and selected speakers, but it is you who can contribute something to this discourse. That is what we truly believe, and that is why this is called an open discussion. We'll come back to that later. The title is Creative Resilience for Planet B. Resilience, the ability to adapt to unknown and maybe unexpected, maybe unpleasant changes, to recover from misfortune. So what can creativity do to help us create more resilience? We will have a lot of interesting, important questions to be discussed later together, but first there will be an inspiration shower from our invited speakers. Thank you everyone for coming. We're very pleased to have you here. They will take us on a journey of very diverse perspectives. So stay tuned. We start with the first one already. Maybe someone of you already wants to take some notes about the thoughts and inspirations that you get during the session to be prepared for a discussion afterwards. All right, so our first speaker is Natalia. She's an emergent media artist currently exploring the possibilities of digital technologies as interliving entities, mutual aid media. In the content of indeterminate creation, their processes are interdisciplinary, open, collective, collaborative, communitarian. She's co-creator of the project Resist Like Bacteria, for which they were awarded for the Prix Ars Electronica this year, received the Golden Nika in Interactive Art Plus. So, what are your thoughts about creative resilience of microorganisms or broader living organisms? Stage is yours.
Thank you, Anna. Hello, everyone. I want to share something nice, and I write it because I want to say it clear. During the last years, there was an interesting question floating around. Is the virus alive or not? And one great unexpected answer was that we actually need to transform our understanding of what life is, of what the phenomena of the living is. That's where we are now, since some decades, and we might need maybe not one definition of life, but many. I want to share one with you that has been in dialogue within our Suratomica Network for Creation, Art, and Science, together with Colombian scholars such as Carlos Maldonado, Ileana Hernandez, and Raúl Niño. Life is that what is creative. Life is that which is creative. Let's just go quickly in our heads to the standard image of the evolution tree, to the phylogenetic tree. What a diversification of life. So many different expressions, so many different ways to break through, huge diversity of life, technologies. Just to mention one reference, those of bacteria, biofilm, the one that we explored together with Jung Hsu in our project, or horizontal gene transfer that allowed them, the bacteria, to share a global gene pool, to share DNA to each other to easily mutate and adapt. Amazing ways to transform information, matter, and energy. The DNA itself, the proteins, the ways they fold, and so on and so on. Can you imagine something more creative than all of that? And later on, Lynn Margulies' proposal. These are not separated species. These are not separated evolutionary processes, but we, all living organisms, entangled with those understood as not living entities up to now, we in our biosphere, more in a network-like visualization, are constantly co-metabolizing, co-evolving, and in our narrative, co-creating. The network of evolution that we explored in this workshop in Cultivamos Cultura that you can see in the picture. Evolution as a fundamentally open process of creativity. We and our creative processes as an expression of nature's creative processes. Life has this immense strength. It self-organizes, it cannot be controlled, it understands no government, no borders, it is mutant, it diversifies, it is never static, it is an ongoing process of self-generation and the regeneration of the conditions for it to exist. So, if we trust more that life, if we understand that life creates us and through us, what we might need to do is to start eliminating all those heavy blocks of our rational organization that holds back our lifelike behavior. The divisions of disciplines, protocols, bureaucratic processes, rigid organizations, the aim of control that we humans want to have over life, over nature, the exploitative relation to nature. And furthermore, the idea that we need to organize, for instance, in nation states. This is what we are exploring in Suratomica, the Suratomica network, how to co-create and co-evolve with other humans and the whole biosphere as true living organisms. How to fracture those heavy blocks for life to emerge, because creativity is not exceptional. It is not given to a few, it doesn't belong only to arts. It is the nature of the living and its way to break through, to resist, and to enable life itself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Natalia. Next one is Yuima Nakazato. He's a Japanese fashion designer who founded his eponymous fashion label in 2009 and presented his collections at Paris Haute Couture Fashion Weeks ever since 2016. He holds a Master of Arts from the Royal Academy of Fine Arts, Antwerp, where his graduate collection earned multiple awards in Europe. So please welcome with me Yuima. With your designs, you're not primarily creating clothes, you're making statements. So the question is, according to your experience, how can artistic approaches make communication possible independent of backgrounds, of knowledge, of language, of skills?
Okay. Nice to meet you. I'm Yuima Nakazato, fashion designer based in Tokyo. I'm very happy to be here. So I'm a fashion designer, but I'm designing the one-of-a-kind design of a garment, which is a couture in the French. So it's age of the mass production today, but I'm designing one-of-a-kind design, especially for the wearer, because I felt some potential in the one-of-a-kind design. Because each person has a different originality and different identity, but mass production is not able to cover and also the respect for each person and each wearer. So, in the history, only limited people are able to wear one-of-a-kind design, especially for the wearer. So I really wanted to change the situation and system of the industry. So I really needed the groundbreaking idea to production costs. Well, these visions come from my personal experience. In the beginning of our career, I designed order-made costume for the person, and the wearer was so happy. And then I realized, and I found that fashion design is able to people make happy. But unfortunately, only limited people are able to get this opportunity and experience. So this was the starting point of my journey. And then 3 years ago, I found a miracle technique and idea. It's called biosmoking. And these pictures, this side, this is a patterns of a corset and garment left side. So this technique is using like a special fabric. It's called brood protein, which is the artificial protein materials. And this material has special functions. It's called supercontraction. When you put it in the water, it's 40% shrink. So it's quite like a negative point when it's fabric, it's 40% shrink with the water. But I thought this is super unique because it's like fabric is moving themselves. So, and by accident, I found that it's able to control by digital print. So this pattern is just a square and just moving themselves by themselves. So I found it like a special print which is able to fix the shrinking. So print without print, print without print. So in the end, it's able to control how they move. So we found it a way. So this pattern and all the lines calculating fit, it's all fit for the wearer's body. So also it's no cutout. There are no wastes because it's just a rectangle or square to fit on the body. Actually, this is a Japanese kimono philosophy because kimono made by only the rectangle patterns. So, but also the Western tailoring is to make a curve to fit on the body. So actually this is East and West, like a different approach of the body or fusioning each other. So it's able to fit on the human's body, but also there are no wastes in the process, the making process of the garment. So also changing some like a data, it's very easy to fit on the wearer's body and size, and also it's able to change their designs. So there are potential. It's a still experimental phase, but it could be groundbreaking idea of a production cost because there are no need to run the thread. Just put it in the water and popping up this garment. So in the center, there are like black cloths. And this will be like a popping up, becoming a three-dimensional. So two-dimensional, it's in almost like 1 minute to becoming a three-dimensional garment. So it could be, this idea might be democratized of a couture in the future. So this is my visions. Eventually, each and every garment will be unique and different. This is my visions. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Rashin Fahandej. She's an Iranian-American storyteller and cultural activist. Her artistic initiatives are multi-year experimental laboratories for collective radical imaginations of social systems, using counter-narratives of care and co-creation. As assistant professor at the Emerson College Department of Visual and Media Arts, she has launched a pioneering XR co-creation documentary initiative in partnership with federal probation offices, Nurturing Fatherhood Program, where students, formerly incarcerated fathers, and probation officers co-create personal documentary projects. As an artist working at the intersection of art, technology, society, social justice, you have introduced the idea of art as ecosystem. How do you see the possibilities in art and creative processes creating social resilience and alternative ways of ecosystems?
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Losing my voice already. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you all. So, human society is a complex ecosystem. Social challenges do not exist in isolation. They are a network of interconnected challenges. But however, our social construct and methodologies and funding resources are mainly designed to tackle problems in vacuum, to make them easily understandable. And that in itself is the failure, because that process creates innumerable blind spots and leaves many people and perspectives and don't fit many people's and perspectives that they don't fit the conventional forms. So in that sense, Ars Electronica feels like a home, because it does in nature try to breaks those boundaries and bring different disciplines and people together to do that. So I'm excited to talk about this and be with you here. And I think as artists and creative problem solvers, we offer unique perspectives and processes that are simultaneously powerful, but also intimate, and often missing from many decision-making tables thinking about future world. So with that, I was thinking that how us as an individual artist could force that ecosystem and create that pattern that mimics the way that the society is in order to tackle the issues. So I define art as ecosystem as a network of intersectional collaborations with individuals, communities, and institutions that allows for that multiplicity of perspective and the diversity of perspective to coexist. The creation process itself becomes the opportunity to collectively investigate social systems and shift the dominant narratives around pressing issues. And being an artist at the intersection of art, technology, and media and storytelling, I really believe in the power of storytelling and personal narratives in a way that this ecosystem allows for personal and political issues to sort of intersect. And that intersectionality allows for our full humanity coexist. The issues of gender, the issues of class, climate justice, we cannot isolate any of these from each other, and we need to have a more holistic perspective of them. And then often when we think about creative process and future thinking, most of the time we think about the vision and the creation, and often miss to discuss the philosophies and methodologies. And I think that's what I want to invite all of us to think together. And co-creation has been a methodology that I'm embracing in the work, especially when it comes to social justice issues, because art and technology space is in a constant development and change and formation. And in the formation of that, it is important that we consider whose perspective we are missing, who is not here at the table. And with that, I want to kind of bring a few quotes from a very important field study that it will be actually published by Kat Sisek and William Uricchio, and it will be published as a book to think about what co-creation it is or could be, and it's based off many projects in the field. The concept of co-creation reframes the ethics of who creates and how and why, and interprets the word and seeks to change it through the lens of equity and justice. And another important aspect of it is that the process evolves within the communities and with people rather than being made for and about them. And when we are considering this idea of working together and collaborating, I want to leave you today with this question of, in order to imagine a planet B and imagine a different world, how can we, as artists, consider those blind spots, the people who are not here to think about with us, not because we want to be diversifying, but because without those visions, there is no way we can create a holistic planet B. Thank you.
Thank you. Amazing. Next is Adrian van Hooydonk. He is Senior Vice President of BMW Design Group. And for him, I quote, design combines art and engineering. Automotive designs need to offer more than just functionality. It needs to be at the forefront of technology and sustainability. So you're working in a leadership position at the intersection of art and technology. What would you say from your experience in this field is helpful to get people from all different backgrounds, from all different nations, skills, motives to join on one vision together?
Yeah, thank you, and good morning to you all. Thank you for having me here and to participate here. I had to select one single picture to sort of illustrate what we do and how we do it. And as you notice, it's not a car, it's not a motorcycle, it's an open road. And I think that does really depict what the team of 700 people that I'm part of is doing and how we're doing it, or how we approach designing mobility. Because this picture for me, the open road, for me that shows freedom, it shows exploration, discovery, meeting new people, meeting new cultures, and experimentation. So that's actually what motivates us doing what we do. And why I selected this picture in thinking about this talk was that somebody once said that if you want to motivate a team of people to build a ship, don't show them pictures of ships, show them a picture of the ocean. So in my case, since the mobility that we do is mostly land-based, it's an open road. But it is, I think, encapsulating a lot of things that mobility has given us so far. And the only thing is, of course, in order to preserve this, in order to continue to enjoy this, we have to go through a lot of change. And I think you're all aware of this. And that's actually what we're here to talk about and to think about with you today. I'm an industrial designer, and for me, industrial design is really a mix between art and engineering. I'm from Holland. I studied industrial design at the Technical University in Delft. You get trained in problem solving, and right now, I think we all know, there's plenty of problems that need solving. So yes, that is going to be an even bigger part, or has become an even bigger part of our job right now already. But like artists, I think we need to do much more than that. We need to deliver things that people relate to on an emotional level, that really directly speak to your senses. And if we manage that, then I think the change that we all want and we know that we need will happen faster. So today, I think our job is about much, much more than just creating beautiful things. The things that I've seen here today already have been very inspiring to me. We've come here really to enter into a dialogue. This afternoon, we are organizing a workshop together with Supersense Studio from Vienna. Florian Kaps, who founded that, is someone that I met at a talk like this. And we've stayed in contact ever since. And he's very like-minded, I would say. In everything that he does, or that he has already done, he's created a lot of interesting new products. He starts with the human being at the center of his thoughts, and about the five senses and how you can address them. He's not against technology. You will see a lot of analog stuff, which is maybe strange in Ars and Electronics, but he is saying, let's think about which technology we need before we start. And I very much agree to that. In our industry, in the mobility field, of course, we are working very hard to make the cars more sustainable, circular even, and they're becoming more and more intelligent through digital technology. Not so long ago, that meant that each new digital technology created a new screen or a bigger screen and a new button and a few more switches. And I think we can already say that we've managed to reverse that trend. Cars are becoming more and more intelligent, more and more complicated, but in the interior, there's less and less or fewer switches now. And that is really the hardest thing to do, to incorporate all this latest technology, but then create something that in the end is more human than what people maybe even expect. So that's our mission, that's what we're trying to do, and we'll continue to do. We did bring one car, maybe you saw it. It's an i3, which for us was already a radical departure roughly 10 years ago. But standing here today, I would say it's only a starting point. It's only a canvas for new ideas. And that's exactly how we want you to use it. So please join us at this workshop this afternoon. Use the canvas, bring your ideas. We know that big changes are needed and we can't do that alone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adrian. Next is Jung Hsu. She's a researcher and new media artist from Taiwan based in Berlin. She attempts to combine interdisciplinary knowledge with artistic research to create heterogeneous encounters. In a process, she responds to the current social situations with multiple perspectives and uses metaphorical objects to create a speculative scenario. Her recent work has focused on micro-biopolitics and crypto-guilty, together with Newman being rewarded for the pre-Ars Electronica Golden Nika in Interactive Art Plus. In your project, you discuss how bacteria could become a model for human society. What do microorganisms tell us about sense of community?
Hi everyone. I'm happy to share a bit about how the bacteria inspired us about our project, which is called biofilm.net, also exhibited now in the Mensa buildings. And you can see the photos. In the black and white photos is how biofilm looks like. And what is biofilm? When bacteria, they in some environment which is maybe a bit dangerous to the species, they will create this kind of a surface, with polymetrics. But under this surface, there's not only one single species, but most of them, they are multi-species. They are encountered and create this like a shelter. And with this biofilm, it can give this bacteria or microorganisms 1,000 times stronger to resist with antibiotics or other microbiome attack. And I found that there actually are many similarities between these microorganisms, technologies, and the social movement, like the crowd. How crowd react, how crowd behave in social movement or protest on the street. Because we all know, in Hong Kong movement, the strategy called Be Water is kind of leaderless, decentralized way. And the way they react with police or with the government is actually really similar to the bacteria. They communicate with each other. They don't have actual leaders. And you can see the right side photos. This yellow is a pride parade from Taiwan, and it's a few years ago. And for example, in Taiwan, the Pride Parade, we are pursuing the gay marriage law. But that process takes us around, I guess it's more than 20 years. And a few years ago, we finally passed the law. And how these two things put together and inspire me is like, sometimes social movements, they couldn't get the result immediately. Like you have to chase, you have to talk to the community, you have to talk to the society, and so communicate with the government to say what we really want. We will all want to change a bit of the society, but sometimes you couldn't reach that point in really short term. How can we make the social movement more sustainable or in a long-term way that people won't feel defeated in maybe some short period? And we thinking that biofilm, this metaphorical technology from bacteria, is kind of maybe can give us some hope, because, for example, in Hong Kong movement, like in 2019, I don't know if you guys know the news that the Hong Kong movement now facing a kind of serious situation. You can say it's not so successful, but people still having this hope that if we can hide ourselves in some certain point, we are not be like under the censorship, we can hide their identities. And under the biofilm, we can grow and grow under maybe, I don't know how long, but in some certain point when we reach amount that is stronger enough, it's huge enough, we can fight back. We can just appear again to the society that we are still there and we still have something to talk. And also the biofilm, you can see this multi-species strategies. In every social movement, we are so different. Everybody has some slightly different perspectives, slightly different purpose, but can we join together as a communities? Like it's not only one single opinion, but it's we all be together, we stay here, we maybe can, like, I don't know, it's like be patient and be strong. And maybe in the future, we can still break out and do something. This is how bacteria technology inspire us, the biofilm project. And also happy to share that in this afternoon, me and Natalia will have a workshop in our project place. And it's at 3 p.m. We will talk more about not only the bacteria perspective, also technology way, activism way, and we had many communities invited to share some experience with us. So if anyone will interested, please join us. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Lamberty's people experience expert at Cisco system. He's researcher and consultant on the reciprocity of technology in societal amalgamations. Cisco's online conference tool WebEx has most probably accompanied most of us throughout the pandemic home office and distance learning period, making adjustments to this worldwide challenge possible. So the question to you now is, how can technology support our society to adapt to unpleasant changes that we inevitably face?
Unpleasant changes, it's a good term, yes. That's where we are. Thanks, Anna, for the intro and the opening question, and really good to be here today. The question, and let me rephrase it, how can technology support our society to adapt to unpleasant changes that we inevitably face, assumes a kind of a causal relationship between society and tech. So as a society, we can invent new technology to overcome our challenges. What I'm trying to do is kind of turn this upside down in the next 5 minutes, 4 minutes 30, to add a little bit more complexity in responding to these questions. And I'm going to do this with a little help of the XF. And you see this on the screen, XF, Xenofeminist Manifesto. Quick raise of hands. Does anybody has been at this website? Who is in the room here? Anyone? That's great. Nobody knows this. So I'm in a good space here. And xenos, as you know, is the Greek term for the stranger. So it's the xenofeminism, which is a plays an important role. So the manifesto was actually written by a collective named Laboria Chubonics, published in 2015, and it is, from my point of view, it is actually merging tech and poetry and activist slang for the first time in a very elegant way once. And I think the second thing that is even more interesting to me is applying coding as a mindset to writing. Now, since we're all in a shower, it's the largest shower I've ever been to, I would ask you to relax, don't take notes, lean back, enjoy yourself, and if you want, close your eyes so the concepts that I'm going to quote from Laboria can sink in. Let me rephrase the question. How can technology support our society to adapt to unpleasant changes that we inevitably face? So the question presumes no tech without society. XF, xenofeminism, turns it upside down. It basically starts from a presumption which says no society without tech. Society, in fact, can be seen as a technology itself. So the manifesto starts like this. I'm going to quote a couple of sentences from the manifesto. 1, ours is a world in vertigo. It is a world that swarms with technological mediation, interlacing our daily lives with abstraction, virtuality, and complexity. So why xeno? We are all alienated, but have we ever been otherwise? It is through and not despite our alienated condition that we can free ourselves. Freedom is not a given, and it's certainly not given by anything natural. The construction of freedom involves not less, but more alienation. Alienation is the labor of freedom's construction. That's an important point. It seems a little bit far away from what we're discussing, but I think when it comes to resilience, it calls us a major kind of shift in thinking. 3, technology isn't inherently progressive. Its uses are fused with culture in a positive feedback loop that makes linear sequencing, prediction, and absolute caution impossible. Technoscientific innovation must be linked to a collective theoretical and political thinking. And I think that's what you were referring to. The real emancipatory potential of technology remains unrealized still. And one reason why this is the case is the excess of modesty in, for instance, feminist agendas of recent decades is not proportionate to the complexity of our reality. A reality crosshatched with fiber optic cables, radio and microwaves, oil and gas pipelines, aerial and shipping routes, and finally the unrelenting simultaneous execution of millions of communication protocols with every passing millisecond. Which means reality first and foremost formed by technical infrastructure. It's another important point to make here. So now when it comes to social infrastructure, XF makes another important statement from my point of view, which is the 5th one I'm going to refer to, and it's called illusion. Illusion as the blind presumption that the weak can prevail over the strong with no strategic coordination is a politics that, in wanting so much, ends up building so little. Without the labor of large-scale collective social organization, so we're now talking about social as an infrastructure, declaring one's desire for global change is nothing more than wishful thinking. And since I'm close to the end, I need to skip one here. So I'm going to close finally with this, the final quote from XF. Sorting the subversive possibilities from the oppressive ones latent in today's web requires a feminism savvy enough to know how to exploit the potential. Know-how, it's about knowledge. Digital technologies are not separable from the material realities that underwrite them. That's another important point. It's about really what is at the very bottom that enables everything else. So to think about it of a layered model. They are connected so that each digital tech and material realities each can be used to alter the other towards different ends. Intervention is more obviously material hegemonies is just as crucial as intervention in digital and cultural ones. So if one really wants to know what is possible or not in shaping Planet B, my pledge here is it might be useful to start from the basics of material hegemonies, not to get stuck over and over again in what XF calls illusion. So please join the Futurelab and join Cisco Systems. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Sigrid Bürstmayr is an exhibition designer and teaches exhibition design and sustainable design at FH Joanneum Graz and at Alpen Adria University Klagenfurt. As in any other disciplines, she considers design to have a responsibility to act sustainably. This is in a way which makes ecological, social, and economic change. How can design promote resilience and contribute to a better future? What do you say?
Thank you for introduction and thank you for being here. Yeah, resilience needs flexibility. Also, design requires flexibility. So the design approach nowadays is that we have to adapt to all these environmental changes, to the social issues, and we have to work on a responsible economy. So I would like to underline these approaches with some ideas and changes which we can adopt to our daily design business. Imagine the printing costs of a poster or of a book is related to the amount of color which is on the paper. Would this change your behavior or your graphic design? Progressively, there is already, for example, a font with ink traps, so with little cutouts for saving or for using less ink. Imagine a fast-loading web page to save green energy, which is used for the web page. So minimizing data volume and checking the right hosting service is a very important point. And of course, barrier-free communication design. This means communication has to be readable, visibly, and understandable. It is all about the design for all concept. Coming to the classic design product design, we cannot stop thinking about the design as soon as the customer bought it. It is also in our responsibility to think about the product, what is happening with it when the customer is not using it anymore. And I'm not speaking about the tiny recycling label on the packaging. No, because recycling, it is still promoted as one of the solutions for our waste problems, but I'm sorry to tell you, it is not. For example, coming back to the printing example, a study says for paper that only 60% can be recycled. The other 40% are toxic materials, like the ink, like the stuff you need for binding, so the glue or the plastic threads. Imagine, we could only produce products which never turn into waste because they are either biodegradable, so you can give it back to the nature, or we can separate the materials again and use it again. So this concept is called circular design. This would lead to a life full of resources and we won't have any waste problem. And let me add a personal observation about the waste disposal system, at least in Austria. I think it's way too good because we put our waste outside the doors and then the next morning it's gone. It's out of our eyes, it's out of our consciousness. Nearly 20 years ago, I did my studies about circular design. And now I have to teach my design students about this concept. But why? Why is it not the core of every development, of every business, of every design yet? Why are we not getting active? Because trust me, there are more social projects, more really good green solutions, more alternative ways you may think. So please do a good research, get educated, and let's use the knowledge we have already, and let's get started. So it's all about to close this mind-behavior gap. So we have to close the gap between the knowledge we have already, and we have to start doing things. Coming to an end, we are living in an area of yes, COVID as well, but also it's all about co-working, co-living, co-creating, co-mobility, and this requires a lot of flexibility. And as in any other disciplines, also designers has to take the responsibility for a resilient world. And I took this picture at the Tejo in Lisbon, and I shared this optimistic atmosphere with this elderly couple, because I also trust in us, I trust in you, I trust in me, that we can take part, and that we have the power to create a better world. Thank you.
Thank you, Sigrid. Now, Markus Neustetter, born in Johannesburg and currently moving between his studios in South Africa and Vienna. He's artistic director, facilitator, researcher, and strategist to various creative industry areas. Markus Neustetter is co-director of the Trinity Session, and his works explore cross-disciplinary practice, site specificity, socially engaged interventions, and the intersection of art and activism. How can artistic processes or even the exploration of art as an observer enhance society's resilience? What do you say?
Good question. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. Thanks to all of you. The privilege of being the last person is I've got too many notes to reflect back on, so my 5 minutes start now. When I was first asked to think about this idea of resilience and kind of cultural resilience, creative resilience, I was tempted to tell you all about the amazing projects in South Africa where communities are coming together to change their environments by collective efforts through the arts. And it would have been a very nice, very happy exploration of what's possible when people need something and they work together to change something. But I actually wanted to share this project with you more importantly because it was about me. And not me in terms of my ego, but rather an exploration that I had. And I think I speak to many artists in this audience when we all have a moment where we feel like we are like Sisyphus, pushing the rock up the hill, trying to make a statement about something in society that needs to change, and then we turn around and the rocks roll right back down again, and we start again, and we're pushing up. And I think that incredible frustration is what happened to me here when I was trying to push this ball of water against a watershed to try and prove that we can change nature somehow. We can change its direction. So kind of trying to relocate this. And on that journey, I struggled quite a bit. It was heavy. It was hot. I was uncomfortable. But more importantly, it was about the interaction that happened around me. So what I want to share with you is that as I think I'm performing a futile attempt as an artist, trying to have an impact and try to build something that to a certain extent I feel very alone in doing very often, and maybe you share this too, that we try to change something and yet we don't know where our peers are, our colleagues are. It is in that act of redoing and retrying and relearning that I think the resilience builds up, and not just in ourselves but in how we are witnessed. The reality is I was pushing this ball up the hill and suddenly the little ball got a hole. There was obviously a nail or something on the floor, and as I was pushing I saw the water running down between my legs. And I thought, oh, the water is now leaving. And there's this moment that I don't know what to do with myself. And suddenly I looked around me and I saw people pointing at the water, looking at me in desperation, thinking this foolish man is trying to push something against something. and he'll never manage because now he's got a hole in his ball and all the water's running back. They didn't know what it was. It wasn't like I was announcing I was making an artwork. It was just the experience. And that acknowledgement that others were worried about what I was doing, as futile as it seemed and as weird as it seemed, meant that I could maybe affect a change just by doing it again, trying harder, pushing further. And I think that's an act of doing that kind of grows a certain sense of community around you and support and passion around you that you as an artist have a power to do. And for me, that was that moment where I realized that the resilience isn't just about how we're going to imagine and visualize the future. We all know we need to do that, but it's actually about the acts that we need to take in order to prepare the audience and our participants and our followers and our Instagram followers, etc., why it is important that we're doing this and that we're not going to stop. And so to a certain extent that Greek myth or legend of Sisyphus kept on coming back to me as an idea where I thought, well, if I'm going to take certain steps towards the next goal or towards the next act of creating awareness, how can I acknowledge other people's voices in this? And that's where my personal kind of question came up about me as an artist in this position. What is the thing that connects me to the next person? And that is my own vulnerability. And I'd like to just address the notion of vulnerability quite briefly. And that is, in the act of making your first mark, your first voice, your first dance, your first move, even if you're not a dancer, you are exposing yourself to a certain extent, and you are putting yourself in a place of vulnerability. The next person accepts that, trusts that, but builds that relationship with you if you're doing it well enough and often enough and vulnerable enough. And so currently working within the public sphere, outside of the galleries, outside of the museums where it's a so-called safe space, you start to build a sense of community and trust because you yourself become vulnerable. And I think as humans, we all have that. I think COVID proved that to us, actually. The moment of our own vulnerability starts to create a different sense of community. And so with this notion of being an artist in process, trusting the process, and being vulnerable in those steps, and allowing the audience to witness that and participate in that, I often feel that that is what draws a sense of social kind of resilience and community and vulnerability that becomes a machine that, sorry, let me rephrase that, a sense of social vulnerability that then creates a sense of resilience because we're all moving towards a goal. And so as I'm pushing this ball up and the water's trickling down and I'm completely desperately thinking I'm going to push the water against the watershed and I'm going to succeed in this effort and I'm going to prove to the conference that's talking about climate change around the corner that as an artist I can do this, I get to the top, the water's all out, I've got this bag of plastic now in my hand and I look back at the water and I start walking back down following this trickle and I have a community of about 30 people following me. And they're all following me. I don't know why they're following me, but they want to know what I'm now going to do to restart this journey. And we end up at the bottom of the hill having a discussion about whether I should do this again. And the answer was yes. We should push the ball of water up the hill again. And when I asked them why, they didn't know. But the reality is we need to keep pushing that ball of water. And for me, that repetition, that acknowledgement, that attachment to my very weird passion that I had through acknowledging my own struggle and vulnerability was something that taught me that we can actually affect that change through a certain methodology that I hope I illustrated to you today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone on stage for this amazing inspiration shower. I would ask the panelists to free the seats now for you guys in the audience. It's now time to make a shift from being inspired from outside to actually participate actively in this discussion. Let me briefly introduce the discursive format we have today. It's called a fishbowl discussion, meaning that everyone can participate. There is a few common ground rules to make sure that everyone who wants to say something will be heard. First one is, probably I don't have to mention that, but a mutually respectful tone is the basis of any conversation, discourse we will have here, please. Moreover, you can see there will be these beautiful, appealing, colorful seats on stage. If you want to participate in the conversation, I would ask you to come on stage and take one of these 5 seats. For everyone in the audience, please just listen. The active participants are on stage. So how can you gather one of these very nice chairs? You don't even have to raise your hands or ask for permission. Just stand up, come to the front, occupy one of these wonderful seats in the first row, and then you can come up to stage as soon as there is one of the colorful chairs free. When starting to talk, please shortly introduce yourself so that we know who we are having a dialogue with. Also, I would ask you to please leave the stage after your statement or a few minutes. Like, you can get into discussion also with another panelist on stage, but we would kindly ask you not to occupy the seat forever so that everyone gets the chance to actively participate. You can, though, come back later if you want. If there is anything else popping up that you say, I need to make a point to that, then please feel free to join again on stage. This way, we are trying to create an ongoing flow of speakers in this conversation. So in a nutshell, it is 3 roles. That would be 1, take a seat on stage if you want to participate. 2, if you want a seat on stage, come to the first row here, and then up on stage once the seat is free. Mention your name, please, before starting to talk. And 3, please free your beautiful seat after your contribution, and if you want, come back later, so that we have a vivid exchange. Right, in case someone needs a friendly reminder that this is not a monologue, I prepared a yellow card. That just means please be aware to come to an end like soon. And if someone is constantly ignoring my little advice here, then I would also have prepared this red card, meaning please close right now and free your seat for the next speaker to come to stage. That would be great. Last but not least, we will relocate a little bit in here because, as you see, it's difficult to get through the rows to the front stage, at least for people sitting in the middle. That's why I would ask you to put away anything that is on your table and put your bags underneath the table in front of you. And once you have done that, please everyone stand up. As a first step, everyone stand up, please. And then, as some are already starting, sit on the table behind you so that people of the row can pass by in front of you. In case of these beautiful, yeah, you can just come to the other row. Yeah, sounds great. Looks comfortable over there. So, is there any questions left from your side concerning the discussive format? If not so, I suppose you're all ready to get on stage, right? A sense of community gives us courage, gives us strength. Courage to dream of a vision for all of us together, namely a planet B. And strength to actually follow a new path towards a positive future together. Talking about a positive future, I'm asking you now, how can resilience be transformed from a personal matter to a social phenomenon for everybody? How can we, in face of these many crises, maybe pandemic, climate, war, endless examples, how can creativity, art, technology, science, how can they support, strengthen, and maybe guide society? Now, this is the official invitation for you to make a first step, for some of you to come to the front and start this discussion. I'm looking for brave people, inspired people by this session before any volunteers standing up. It's not too far anymore. You're already sitting on the tables. Feel free to come up here. Some of you. First volunteer, that is amazing. Please choose one of the beautiful chairs. Thank you. Applause. Thank you. Come and join. I'll just hand over the microphone for the first person. So please, if you feel inspired and want to contribute something, then come up. If there's still a free seat, right straight through. If not, sit down here in the meantime. So again, the experience of facing a global challenge as a collective can bring hope. That's a perspective. We need a visionary approach to Planet B. There is power to change in this world. How can art and technology support, strengthen, guide our society? How can creativity pave the way to shift from personal responsibility to a more communal sense of resilience? Please, the stage is yours.
I try to be short, even though that is really hard. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Also, the inspirational shower was super impressive and interesting and very, very inspiring. There's so many things that still stick to my mind. Pointing out, Jung Hsu pointed out that over time, things that we do, things that we try to change will lead to a change, which is the same perspective in a way that Markus Neustetter has presented. It's don't stop. It's don't stop. Keep on doing what you're fighting for. Sigrid Bürstmayr, I don't want to repeat all the statements, but that is something that really sticks to my mind. We're talking about there is so much to do, so many inspiring potential solutions out there that we need to get informed about. And I think that this is, and of course, as I'm working here since 27 years, this is also very, very true for the spirit of the Ars Electronica. It's just like there is only one Ars Electronica every year. I think that is way too less. It is actually about getting together, grouping together, talking, discussing together about the challenges that I had, about the chances that we can see, about the risks that we are focusing. And especially in this year, it is almost like the necessity for a joint vision. And I'm very, very sure it's not one vision. There's 100 of different visions. But it is about not being active because we are afraid about the disaster. I think it is about now to come together and create a vision that we would like to live in, that we would, describe a future today in order to arrive at the spot that it is worth fighting for, that is our plastic ball full with water, that we constantly try to bring it up the hill. That, I think, is just my fundamental statement. Thank you very much to all the inspirational showers here. Thanks.
Thank you, Horst.
Hello, everybody. I am Eric Seal. I'm here because of Jun, mostly, Baofilm. 2 years ago, bewildered by Hong Kongers, got the Golden Eagle here in Ars Electronica. Back then, it was pandemic, so I couldn't come here. And I think this conversation was well delayed. And it's great that I can bring up this conversation again because of Baofilm. And thank you so much. And I also want to tell you, Hong Kongers are still alive. We're still fighting. We're still trying very hard. As you said, no matter we're covering ourselves, or like myself, I'm here, not covered, and keep talking about Hong Kong. We are still fighting. So thank you for the motivation. And it's very tough right now, as Jun said. It's a lot of difficulty, and we're still looking for a lot of solution. And I think as creators, as artists, as everyone sitting here, it would be great that we always have conversation and try to look for new way of resilience that connect with development of our humanity. With the inspiration of Planet B, we can see that not only we are fighting for democracy and freedom, we are fighting to save our planet. And if we talk about Hong Kong or Ukraine, the war, we have a very, very clear 1 or 2 person target enemy. But to save the planet, ourself is the enemy, right? The human being is a million, billion of human being. We need to educate, we need to inspire, we need to trigger, we need to communicate, right? So it's difficult tasks. There are passionate people who don't have idea, there are passionate people who has idea, there are passionate people, or like there are people who have creativity. So I don't know, it's the same kind of message, but let's continue our inspiration and spread our word to make more people join our force. And like the other day I was in the data space conference, there's one lady saying that after seeing all this crazy data about Ukraine war and Russian, they feel very helpless. And this is the same feeling when I was in Japan, looking at Hong Kong, and I couldn't do anything to support the protests. I wish I would be on the street. But what I want to say is every single very little thing that you do, it would be like contributed to a very big picture. So never think you are helpless anymore. Never think that your action is minimal. Just do it. Just thank you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Dowderman. This is my first time at Ars Electronica. I'm so glad to be here. And I'm inspired by 2 of the morning inspirations that I heard. The first one from Jung Hsu about the microbioorganisms, and then about Zachary from South Africa, is his name, about the Sisyphean task of the artist pushing the water up the hill. I'm also inspired by a quote from Marina Ponti, who is the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals Action Campaign director. And she said, I'm speaking about the arts, and specifically about music. So music can't change the world, but music can change people, and people can change the world. So we, as artists, or people working in the arts, we speak to the emotions, and we know how powerful emotions can be. And as artists, so often you think, or as people who present art, is this making a difference? How can we help make a difference? We're looking at this world and we see what a mess it is and we want to help. But what we do can move people if we are doing it in a conscious way. So this combined with, sometimes it feels like as an artist what you do or what you're presenting is not really making a difference. It's Sisyphean. Why are we doing this? But coming together and joining together in a conscious way to make change. This is so important, and that's why events like this are so important, where all of you are coming together, and you're joining forces, yeah? And so here's a little plug. I'm trying to put something together for art music, specifically for classical music and activism. So if you're into that, or you know somebody who's into that, please talk to me, because I want to help that particular sector make more for positive change in the world. Thank you.
You just mentioned something very important. Art is not a work piece. It's a process rather, right? So art is created, perceived, it's experienced on many different levels. How can artistic approaches serve as catalysts for change? As sources of strength? Courage to evolve, maybe? So please come and join on stage. We need more speakers to have an active dialogue with everyone. Don't be shy, just come up front. There is no restrictions.
Thank you for that lead-in. I'm Jennifer Lowe. I'm from Singapore. I'm a co-founder of Playum, a children's center for creativity. I was thoroughly inspired this morning. I think I had takeaways from every single speaker. I was furiously writing notes for some, but others you just wanted to sit and listen. And I think one of the main takeaways, you know, when we talk about resilience, for me, is about open communication. And I think that, I mean, this is obviously what we're having here today, and people coming up and being vulnerable and being able to speak about what they feel is really important. One of the things that came to mind when I was listening to some of the stories, and especially I think it was Rashin, who was talking about storytelling and personal stories and how that actually builds bridges within communities. It brought to mind one of the projects that we did, which in a very small scale, it's intergenerational. We were doing a program for families and for parents and children mostly, but then also grandparents and children. It's in that smaller, more nuclear sort of a community. This one particular project, what we had, well, the artist was working with children on making finger puppets, and with the parents and grandparents as well. But it was about reversing the roles. So the parents would make finger puppets of the children, and the children made of the grown-ups. And then they started role-playing, and one of the stories that they would role-play would be something that actually did happen recently in their recent memory. And you know, the perspectives that the children and the parents have to take, you know, in each other's seats was really quite inspiring, because afterwards we had some reflection, especially from the parents, that, you know, they never actually saw it that way until they had to put themselves in the children's seat, how the children felt. And then the same I would have assumed for the children as well. I think that sort of role-playing where we create opportunities for people to tap into that empathy, that sense of empathy, where they start feeling each other and start, you know, putting themselves in each other's seats, I think would be another way where we can use the arts as a platform to create that sort of narratives. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be involved in these conversations and for all the sharing. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, that is a really important point. This is an open discussion where we ask you to participate because we think you have something to share. Your perspective matters. That's exactly what Rashin mentioned earlier with every perspective is part of the whole. We cannot just blind out some spots and ignore them. And this is a real chance for all of you today to take your seat here on stage, but also metaphorically. Take your seat and share your perspective. So please take this opportunity to really get into discussion with each other, or just share a statement. Also, if you want, share a question that's on your mind concerning creative resilience for Planet B. What do we need to get to Planet B? How can we make sure that this Planet B we're envisioning will not equal Planet A? Please take this chance. This is a discussion. We want to share the stage with you. We need you. Otherwise, we could do a keynote, just talk about our perspectives, but it's important to have everyone on board. Please, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you for the inspiring talks. My name is Eveline Wandelvogt. I am working at the Austrian Academy of Sciences, and I'm affiliated to Ars Electronica with the Ars Electronica Research Institute. Knowledge for Humanity, which I am foundress and director of. Knowledge for Humanity already tells we are aiming to bridge the gap between academic knowledge on the one hand and actually societal challenges on the other. So actually our range of work is quite broad, and where we are looking into, from a methodological background, we are working with art-driven innovation, which means we are looking in societal challenges, mainly along the Sustainable Development Goals, emerging technologies, and art as a communication tool, but as well a tool to find the emotional communication with people. So that's quite important for us, and especially we are trying to understand our work as an ecosystem and ecosystem building. So, and that's from both sides, at the Academy of Sciences as well as at Ars Electronica, which means we are working together with people, and actually I would call it knowledge carriers that are having knowledge about the solution we try to bring on board related to our problem. And the quite critical thing is actually to find the people that have the knowledge and connect with them. It was already discussed in the board when we were talking about the ecosystem. Especially, we are trying to address marginalized groups, bring in new views of neurodiverse people as well, and that's quite critical because these are usually the voices that are not heard. And finally, and last but not least, I think Adrian was mentioning the ship quote. That's by I think Antoine d'Exupéry. I'm using that very often as well, and it's not about creating a future and move people towards that because we have the need to, but rather to drive to be driven to change, to make a change towards something more inclusive, something better, because we like it to be better. And that's actually the people that I'm looking for, and I'm happy if I find somebody here inside and talk to me afterwards. Thank you very much.
It's a bit intimidating on the stage by yourself, but hello, my name is Kaya Butcher, and I'm from the US. I'm a curator of community engagement for a contemporary art museum in the state of Colorado, and I'm extremely inspired by the speakers because they are speaking about things that are very close to my heart. The idea of technology and art merged in one is this idea of accessibility. So the art world, much like societal problems, seem terrifying or insurmountable. There's no way to approach them because you always feel silly or small. And the merging of art and technology and this idea of accessibility makes you feel empowered because it's something that everybody has. If you think about your phone, you think about photography, you think about video and film and all of these different technologies as art, they're so accessible to everybody. Photography is available to all of us in our pockets. And everybody knows what a film is. You can connect to people that you've never spoken to over a movie or over a photo. And all of these experiences are really special because they only emerge in the combination of art and technology. And so to see all of these people embracing this idea and really making art for the community and really making technology for the community is just ushering us into a new era and a new epoch of what is possible for everybody by everybody. So.
Thank you. Maybe, thank you very much for sharing this. Maybe that was a very important point, like you're making yourself, or feel like you're making yourself vulnerable on stage. But probably this vulnerability is what makes us connect, right? that is what makes us honest with each other, so that we can share a goal, so that we can all work together, everybody for everybody. So also maybe if you want to share something about how art, technology, about how maybe even society have helped you through crisis that you've been through, or any other experiences that you say this would be valuable for others to know, to be inspired, then please, thank you, join us. Denise.
Cool. Hey, thank you, Anna. I'm Denise Hirtenfelder. I'm a researcher and artist of the Ars Electronica Futurelab, and I'm working in the field of future thinking. I just recently finished my bachelor graduation in Fine Arts before I joined the lab again for the second time. And yeah, actually my graduation project was dealing with a similar topic. I was researching the paradox between eternity and finitude in our current cultural model, and that we have lost this sense of a positive relationship to the end, or any relationship to the end in our global north, because what we are heading to is always continuation and continuation. And I think when it comes to envisioning a planet B, what you said like earlier, and how it can look different than planet A, for me it's very important that we have to accept as a society that some things that we know now cannot be there in planet B, and that we still follow some structures that might be a bit outdated, especially when it comes to envisioning a different kind of world, and that we cannot follow up. And I like to work with the concept of future heterotopias. The heterotopia is unlike the utopia, what describes like this non-place or this imaginary space, what is very important. Also like this real space and this parallel world that we do not only envision, but with what we can actively think of countermodels that we really want to put into reality. And I think this is also our role as artists. We have to think of countermodels and maybe also of possibilities that were not there before, or rewriting like the script of also these possibilities. And yeah, I think that is very important to also really take a different step and not only up a continuation. And yeah, that was my statement. And I also really want to invite you to our workshop in the Future Lab today in the afternoon that is about this topic, rewriting the script, a new relationship to finitude, at 15:30 at the Future Lab, and would be great to envision these heterotopias and these counter models together with you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Andreas, I'm from Graz. Sorry for an intervention, because it's so a nice society here, all people are friendly and think they are in advance of society. And I think it's good to speak also about this gap of reachability, because you don't get these people what you want to get to. I was in Quito. I have an academic and creative background, but I don't work in this field and I make no career, so it's no problem for me to speak just what I want to say. I was in Quito as the UNO Habitat conference, and there was one number what was really hard for me, that 95% of the next decade where the big cities will get much more bigger will be in the least developed countries. And so I think we are speaking here about all these nice, good things, what we can make. We put something out, for example, if you say, yes, we want to be against climate change, we have to decarbonize, yes. But what will happen if this, what we don't use here, this oil and other fuels which are bad in our mind, they will go then to other countries and they will invest cheaply in this industry which are bad. So I think how we can close this gap, because these people, I say 6 billion, they are not involved. They want to get money, they want to have a higher standard of living. They're even not interested in the future. Besides, they will get heavily harmed by this future climate change wars. And I hope that there is something what I can find here. It's nice to speak about a smart mobility. Then you say, yeah, electric cars will be the future. Then you have to see the right thing. Where is this electricity come from? How ecology-friendly they are produced. But if everybody just takes out his own part, what is good for him, and this is a proposition for a new world, I don't see how this will be possible to make a real change. A change what all people want, or most of the people, not a change what we want. We are the elite of tomorrow, and I think this is not true. Sorry.
I guess that is exactly the question. How can we move from this little bubble up to a global phenomenon? How can we make resilience going from individuals towards the whole society, yet like humanity over the whole planet? So that is exactly what we're trying to figure out, or like discussing. Even if we can't answer this question, what we're here for is asking this question. If there is no answer yet, at least we still have to make a point. We have to ask the question to start the discourse, right? So thank you for the contribution. Let's see what else we can hear.
Actually, that might seem like it is staged because I'm working in an area of smart. I'm a smart city manager from the city of Augsburg. So I believe somehow in technology, but as a person and a father of 2 young sons, I'm totally frustrated because I feel like we know what to do, right? So this is anybody really surprised that it has to be about less waste, less CO2? Is it less, we have to change, right? But we simply don't know how. Actually, this is the question I think we all have, and the question really is not what to do today. So I'm frustrated, but I have something in my life which is a German word, which is trotzdem. I don't know how many Germans are in here or German-speaking people are here. Trotzdem is a wonderful word. It's kind of despite or nevertheless, but it has a word like defiance in there, which is really, despite of everything, we do it, right? So and I think we need that. And what I learned from technology is actually not bits and bytes, even if I do a lot of that kind of stuff. I worked a lot in open source communities, and I took a lot of things from there, which I think we have to use for our work as well. And this is really about being open, which means building open organizations, open societies, which is the base of everything, and which is including much more people than ever before. Then using open innovation as well. So this is why we need not a technical solution alone. We have to speak with the society, with the artists, with everybody, and include all of these views into our solutions. And even for smart city technologies, this is important in my point of view. And then get into that open world, and that's something about change. That's what I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi. My name is Sigrid Bürstmayr. I'm from Tel Aviv, Israel. And a few years ago, I've made a project. I'm a designer, 3D artist, animator, character animator, and also technical artist. So many years of studying at home in front of computer or just startups, local startups. So a few years ago, I made a project together with a few colleagues about the Dead Sea. It was called All to the Dead Sea. It was a VR guided tour / game showing the situation of the Dead Sea. It's a sea which is being dried every year, receding 1 meter. And as a consequence, there are many sinkholes that happens, and the whole ground is changing shape. Roads that are being built are suddenly having like a sinkhole, and it is being destroyed, and we don't know what will happen. But this spot is also a small paradise, very beautiful, and it's really sad what is happening there, and also, as well with the animals. So we made the project, which was kind of prototype guided tour showing the situation. And now, actually, and this is the reason I came for the festival, to have some inspiration, because I would like to take this project further. And the biggest dream, if I would dare think about it, is going all the way, making a game like Firewatch, if you know, reaching like the mass media, either like a game, full game in Steam or something like that. And the strategic is like, it is still brainstorming now and collecting people to create the future. Like, there are a few scenarios, what will happen in this area, so just creating this area and then letting the player experience. Either the player becomes an animal that try to survive, or yeah, it is still open, but this is the direction of thinking. So strategically making it appealing, making the game mechanics very playful, but on the other hand, beneath the surface, showing the situation and letting the gamer, which is maybe a more broader audience, really feeling for the animals, and then thinking about the situation and ecological issues.
Thank you. So
Yes.
it's what I hear here, the strategy you're describing to be real about the perspective you have, the point of view, and then get people to join and experience what you mean, creating emotions about the issue?
Yes, but as well making it like almost a game that people that usually would not go to museums, playing this game, enjoying the game, but still getting the message. And in that way, reaching a broader audience and younger audience as well.
Which we need in order to create a collective sense of community and vision maybe for this planet B. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is Daniel Bürkner. I'm an art historian and curator and head of the public art program in the city of Munich. And thank you so much for this inspirational shower and the great program you put up, which is very, very inspiring also for our work. Being in the public art program in Munich means that a lot of my professional life is devoted to trying to enable art in a very strict and non-fluid system in an institutionalized public space. And that means that I have experienced that there is so much power within institutions that we are not aware of, so much power in the structures that dictate what we are able to do. And so what I wanted to address is the issue when we think about climate change and what we can do about it, is this dichotomy between us on an individual basis and the big processes. also the collective processes that enabled the whole crisis and the feeling of helplessness that sometimes comes up when we think about what we can try to do. And what I wanted to do is just encourage you to also take these inspirations and take this knowledge and write manifestos and address the governments, address the local administrations, because we need, beyond the individual knowledge and will to do something, we need the institutional laws and regulations. And this is up to us to confront the structures, because the structures work, unfortunately, best if they don't have to change. And so I think they need pressure, and I would be thankful if you put up this pressure. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, I will happily free this seat if you want to come and join. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Gustavo Valera. I'm Spanish Venezuelan. I work at CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research. I'm a technical coordinator of the new museum. It's called the Science Gateway, and it will be open next year, and in 2023. And I started, my direct answer, because you are asking how the art, how through art we're going to create a different, or a different world. I have to say that I'm the example, and I've seen the evolution since I started to work because I'm a system engineer, and I started to work in new media art 16 years ago, and I've seen how we are transforming, how the transformations is been happening, So I say that I'm a witness that we are doing this, So we are, and I became part of this. My father still asks me when I'm going to find a proper engineer work, So, but I try to explain to him that I'm doing something that requires the knowledge that it took me, the university and the master degree and that kind of stuff. But the important thing about this is when I started to come to here in 2006, I only had 1 year working in Madrid, in Media Madrid. I was invited there for one of the persons that was part of the team of Karin Oelsch that I want to mention that she passed away recently. And she was like, for me, like a key person because I was completely lost. I was an engineer, a system engineer with education in telecommunications, and they were asking me like to try to create a Wi-Fi network in Madrid, open and free, and this is, actually I told them this is not possible, it didn't happen, but in the end I was involved in so many projects, and also I was involved in trying to look at resources, how to teach and to empower artists at that moment, but there were not many things, But if you see the evolution from 14 years ago to now, you will see that, yes, there are resources, the artists now, they are empowered, and there are not only artists now. So we started to educate artists and to look for these kind of digital communities. And the digital communities, are like the main part of this, how you collaborate together, how you share knowledge together, and this is like the main key, collaborating together, sharing, and learning together. But to close the idea, we started to work with artists 14 years ago, and I would say like 10 years ago, then we moved because some universities, schools, and foundations start to ask us to produce contents for high school. And now we are, 10 years later, now we are at the point that we are producing contents for a primary school, so in creative technologies. So I would say that the way to do it is through education. So it's the way I understand after all these years that to empower people is giving them the tools to understand how solve the problems and face them. Also, I struggled between, so I became Spanish, but I'm Venezuelan, and as you know, people are talking about here about the difficult situations, and for me it's been always like a pretty complicated, being involved in another level, on another political level in Venezuela. In Venezuela, I just read before I came here, like more than 6 million have left Venezuela in the last 10 years. So, and more people die on weekends in the neighborhoods, the poor neighborhoods, than in the war in Ukraine now. So, it's a situation that for me is difficult, but every time when I wake up, I just try to do my best to bring to all the people that approach to us, because I'm always part of a team, as much as possible to give them the tools and the creativity tools to produce projects and to get involved and to solve problems, because I guess this is the minimum thing that we can do. So we have to convince ourselves that everybody has the ball that have to push, but if you do it every day and you have that consciousness about how you are pushing in some way, that will affect to other one who is looking, and maybe will have a better solution than you. And for me, I became like always a provider, like I'm a technical manager, and I always create these platforms for everybody, because I'm not able to program and to produce programs and to create many complex things. Or for example, I respect always the artists when they have this idea of creation and visualization of images and everything. I cannot do that, but I provide them the opportunity to do that. So I just wanted to share this. But yes.
Thank you, Gustavo. You said a lot of things that are very inspiring. Thank you. Yeah, applause. Thank you for joining again and following the invitation that everyone can come back on stage. Let's come back. So let's do this a final round. Everyone who feels like they want to be part of the discussion actively and not only be listeners again, now is the chance, and then we will do a little wrap up. Thank you, Marcus.
So, thank you for that. I wanted to share one or two sentiments. The reality of living in two contexts and moving between contexts that might not know about each other or only see a mediated image of each other is a very complex thing. Because I think that as individuals, we want to make change, but then we're sitting in a place where the trash is hidden, as Sigrid, you said, it's too well hidden. But then you walk into a place where the trash is on the floor, and you realize a whole industry has created around the trash that's on the floor. And there's something about Planet B having to sit between the two of them. And my biggest concern around this notion of Planet B and our so-called role of resilience in it is that it becomes a localized reality. That Planet B becomes about the localized, not about the global. And so I was just, as these responses were happening, I was just wondering about our own measurability of how we take ownership of the processes that we're going through. How do we measure our successes as individuals? And I'm pushing that ball as one example, but how do I alternate so that I can make sure that what I'm doing here has the same impact somewhere else, so that it doesn't just become about these little bubbles across the planet that become Planet Bs or that get shot into space, but rather that's something that we can hold on to as a collective effort. And that measurability for me started to relate to the metaphors and the illusions that were mentioned by some of the speakers before. Tom, Adrian, Adrian showed a road, and that shows us the process. So we live in these metaphors, and I'm worried that these metaphors and these illusions that we create for ourselves are very much about the one reality, the one space. And this is not an answer, it's more a reflection, but I'm struggling to measure my own use of the image, of the metaphors, of the things that I can relate to. And even now, if I think about it, I use the Greek myth or a Greek legend which is rooted in a completely different context to where I did the performance, and suddenly I stumble into this problem area, and I find myself very conscious of the fact that once again I'm producing something for the Planet B microbubble, not the Planet B bigger picture. And so it's just something that we need to remind ourselves of, and I think your brief summary of where this issue that you've got before you walk into the room, recognizing that there's another reality somewhere else that's got something else to do with the gentleman from Graz, is something that I think needs to be at the forefront of our minds. How do we translate? How do we re-engage? And how do I take the responsibility for the trash in Johannesburg and in Vienna at the same time, in its different ways? Because every place has to have its own little ecosystem or cultural ecosystem that deals with the notion of Planet B. So those are just some reflections on what's been mentioned. Thank you for listening to me again.
That is exactly what we heard earlier. Also, art can be multicultural. It can be independent of the language, of the nation, of the backgrounds, of the skill set, of the knowledge. Even so, how can we use that strength of art to really expand from one bubble or several bubbles on this planet being spread and maybe not even connected really well to one communal sense?
Yeah, I strongly resonate with that idea, that thought of the bubble and how can we actually get out of it. But I wanted to share something that I kept being reminded of just now. I'm Peter, by the way. I work at the Futurelab. And I keep thinking of the festival 2 years ago because that was when basically it had to radically change. Nobody could travel, and it was very interesting to see what the festival team came up with. So we had these virtual gardens, we had spatial chat rooms, and everything that was a response of this very strong legal constraint that nobody could actually come. And I felt that was just a super resilient and creative response to a strong, in this case, legal pressure. But I feel that this is our job now as artists and inventors to anticipate these pressures and not only react when there's a strong legal, there's no other way pressure, but also we know what the pressure will be in the very near future, and we need to look back at those ideas that we already had in these strongest, most forcing moments, and anticipate that and keep coming up with these ideas, and be the first to come up with these ideas, because that's hopefully our talent and our way of thinking. Yeah.
Amazing. For making a conclusion, maybe if you hear creative resilience for a Planet B, what is like the one word or the 3 words that come to your mind? A difficult question now ad hoc, but after having heard all this inspiration shower and all the people on stage, what is, like in one word, the association for creative resilience for a Planet B, or in one sentence?
Well, react before it happens. So that's this anticipation that I was thinking about. Yeah.
React before it happens. Thank you.
I don't have one
speaker.
I don't have one word, but I like to come twice on the stage sometimes. But yeah, what I wanted to add, like in the end, also was what Peter said was very nice, like. That during these times of COVID, we came up like with this creative, counter models, also digitally. But I think now we have the possibility again a bit more to come together and create this new physical space of encounter. And I think that's also super important when it comes to the topic of resilience, because I think when you really experience something in a group of people, in a crowd, it becomes so much more emotional, and there's so much more empathy in each other if we can also feel our bodies in the space and discuss like actively. So I think what also makes us like resilient in the end, and what we need much more, is coming back to simplicity, because there can be like a lot of technological solutions, but often it's just the simple power of people coming together, disagreeing, agreeing, just making different statements and feeling like this whole magic of the room that makes us feel much more like a group and together, and like to also celebrate like this togetherness.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you. Now it would be my task to summarize all that, and I feel like this is really difficult topic-wise, because only during the inspiration shower there was so many aspects being raised, so many points of views being shared, which I'm extremely grateful for. Thank you for coming and sharing. This is maybe the opportunity to have a little preview or a glance of what it can feel like to share your perspective in order to see how others resonate, and how we can, through connecting with each other, create one bigger society, not only the small bubble. And so I hope that for your take-home message, you can think about, what is my resilience? What do I need for resilience? How can art help build resilience? And going not only from me, but also to others, like to a global phenomena of whole humanity, so that all together, all people can go towards a planet B.